Hello, I'm Dr Jonathan Oates and I'm sitting in the Garden of Rest at St Bernard's Hospital, Southall. Now, the hospital has its roots at the beginning of the 19th century when the Justices of the Peace for the County of Middlesex, and of course in those days Middlesex meant the whole of what we will now call Greater London, more or less, decided that there was a need to help the mentally ill among the poor of the county who could not pay for private treatment. So between 1829 and 1831, a large asylum titled the County Asylum was built here in Southall when there was lots of open land. It was next to a road and it was also next to a canal, and the canal and the road were very important in bringing raw materials to the hospital. In 1831 the hospital was opened. Its first superintendent was Sir William Ellis, and he was in charge from 1831 to 1838 with his wife Lady Ellis. Sir William Ellis was the first man in Britain who was a mental health doctor to be knighted, and he tried to introduce the system of what we will now call occupational therapy, in that patients were encouraged to do work such as gardening, crafts and other activities in order to help improve their health. He also encouraged social events such as dancing and game playing and so forth. But the most famous doctor here was Dr John Connolly from 1839 to 1844, and we'll talk about him in a later video, but briefly, his claim to fame was that he did away with all mechanical restraints, all chains and so forth. And this was revolutionary because although it wasn't the first time it had been done, it had been done, for example, in a Quaker asylum in York, it's the first time it had been done on a large scale. After Connolly's time, the asylum saw many changes indeed. It saw a far more building on the site to accommodate far more patients, because in Connolly's time there were several hundred patients, but in the early 20th century there were several thousand. There were also new buildings. For example, in the 19th century there was the chapel, which later became the museum. There were many more buildings built on this site. In a way, it was really a very self-contained community with a piggery, for example, and farms in which patients and staff grew crops and other food in order to eat in this location. There were also sports and games facilities for both staff and patients, and in 1889 the hospital was taken over by the London County Council. And it became known as the London County Council Mental Hospital. It wasn't called St Bernard's as we know it today until 1937. This is a very short history of the hospital. It's changed immensely. In more recent times, many of the buildings have been demolished or converted to be used as flats for accommodation for people. But there's still a mental health usage at this site, with several hundred patients, mainly men, but some female patients as well, being treated for lots of different problems, including alcohol and substance abuse. Thank you for listening to this. Please remember to hit the like button, to make comments if you wish to, and to subscribe to Ealing Library's YouTube channel. Thank you.